Why are you shouting your name out? It's stupid!
The days when Twilight parodies were still hot. I know it's still very early in the show, but it's great that we're still seeing new ways to explore Ben's newfound fame, this time with celebrity relationship scandals, jealousy of competition, and more public charity events. But this episode is all about the concept of publicity, right down to Carl's plan to create fake scenarios to seem like a hero in public. There has been some fandom controversy about the logistics of Jennifer and Ben's relationship due to the age gap, in a similar vein of Charmcaster and Kevin, but it exists within vague implications as neither Jennifer nor Charmcaster has had confirmed on-screen ages, but it still makes things pretty weird. And while Ben does have a point that Jennifer is all for the publicity, it still would have been nice to have more sympathy for Julie's perspective, especially since we last saw them together in Duped, which ended horribly. This is also the second time that Ben has been infatuated with a public superhero that we've only been introduced to in this episode, and while in the world of Ben 10 it makes sense for other heroes to exist, it's a hard thing to accept when they've never been shown or mentioned before. Although I do like that Gwen and Kevin figured out Carl's scheme through his corporation rather than the cliche of catching him performing an evil monologue or something. I also love that this is one of the only episodes to acknowledge how strange it is that common criminals have had their hands on laser guns and stuff. Jennifer Nocturne is one of the only Ben 10 characters to have multiple outfits casually. Her character acts as a way for other characters to reflect on their own statuses as a public figure, but she doesn't feel like much of a person herself in this episode. But it's cool that initially, Ben sees right through the facade at the beginning, showing that Ben is so experienced with dangerous scenarios, he can apply an efficient level of urgency to them.
It's obviously a publicity stunt.
We do see a more vulnerable side of Ben in this episode too, as his infatuation with Captain Nemesis prevents him from seeing the kind of person he really is. We've seen Ben suspicious of others before on the smallest of notions, but when it comes to someone he admires, it's a different story. It's kinda sad to see Ben speak so highly of him, only to see him turn out as corrupt as Kane North. But once Ben figured out Carl's true nature, he immediately goes after him, and I like that he went straight to Ultimate Humongosaur to show he means business. He didn't even shout his name. And as much as I like Ben's rant towards Carl in the end, it's a shame that Ben's character will reset to relearn the same morals for all of eternity.
Being a hero isn't about others knowing you did something good. It's about you knowing you did something good.
Another one.
This isn't about fame. It's about helping people!
You are talking about him, right?
Another one.
Being a hero isn't about fame. It's about putting other people before yourself or what you want.
This was also around the rise of Iron Man's popularity, which is Carl's first suit-up scene pays homage to. In fact, Carl's whole character, right down to his appearance, is a reference to Tony Stark, although Carl is legitimately evil.
Good. Fight back. I like that.
We also start seeing a deeper transition of Will's motivations from his obsession with ratings to becoming a full-on villain, which plants the seeds for some of his worst decisions later on, like siding with the Incursions in Omniverse. Kevin's as enjoyable as ever though.
I don't want to hear any more of this.
I do.
Ow!
This episode does have some good visuals. Ultimate Alien has been very liberal with allowing Ben to become more aliens than usual per episode, and we get to see them doing more things than a typical battle, although the fight scenes here are very fluid and interesting, and I like that Ben is starting to use more Andromeda aliens. The move he does with Water Hazard was very creative, but I do feel like we're getting way too much Spider-Monkey and Jet Ray, and while Ben 10 has struggled with an uneven alien appearances before, such as Forearms, Humongosaur, and Swampfire, continuing this problem with other aliens is not a great solution, although Spider-Monkey does kick some major ass in this scene. But as for an Iron Man parody, Carl's arsenal of abilities and gadgets is very underwhelming, and he's basically just a ninja wearing robot armor. But it was great to see him beat up by Ultimate Humongosaur though, and I gotta admit, the visuals really kicked into high gear during the ending fight with Supercharged Carl. Although this episode does give us a bit more world building and new characters, they only lead to develop subplots in the future, and nothing is majorly mandatory to see. My only actual complaint is calling an episode Hero Time was wasted on this. Since that's Ben's signature catchphrase, I feel like that title should have been saved for something more significant. He doesn't even say it in this episode. For such a low score, I actually really enjoyed this episode, but when considering the ratings, it really doesn't have much going for it.
I've got something Nemesis doesn't. Friends!